All right. Now let me light a cigarette. We'll get going. We didn't even really think about what we were going to talk about, which doesn't really matter because we end up just.
I figured we'd pick up, maybe try to do Iron Maiden again, or.
Well, I mean, we can't because Bruce Dickinson. There was like a just recording of him berating a concert attendee for good reason too. Actually, the guy lit a fucking flare in the crowd.
He did what? Bruce did what?
An audience member at a recent concert in Greece lit an actual flare, and Bruce Dickinson laid into him, called him the C word. As you know, he's mad.
Well, not really. In England, they call everybody a cunt. Pretty typical.
Yeah, but it's not usually as a term of endearment, like.
Well, no, like I said, that time on that Peace of Mind bootleg CD I had where he's refers.
Oh, I love that.
As a
message from Ari. That's one.
Well, no, not that either. I'm talking about there was a bootleg CD of the Peace of Mind tour. It was just a show from that tour. And they played "To Tame a Land," the song that was going to be on the movie Dune in 1984. And he goes, "This song was going to be on the Dune movie. And it got cut from the film because the author, Frank Herbert," and everybody started cheering. Yeah, he goes, no, don't cheer him. He's a bit of a cunt, actually.
Oh, I thought you were talking. Oh, you're talking about that. I was talking about the B track on. Actually, it might be.
"To Tame a Land," but you're thinking of "Mission from Airy."
Yeah, Mission from Airy. Yeah. Harry. That's my favorite one.
Harry, and Harry's the nickname of Steve Harris, so that's what "Mission from Airy."
Right.
That's just.
But I love it because when you hear it, it kind of shows you what kind of a troublemaker Bruce Dickinson is. Because when they're explaining it, like things were like calming down, and then you hear Bruce Dickinson come in and just start stirring it up again. Well, I don't know what your problem is, Nico. Like. And it just riles everything back up and starts recording it. It's hilarious. I love that.
And at the end, he goes, "Some cunt's recording this."
Right.
That's funny. See, that's the kind of shit like I want to know about from Iron Maiden, and he didn't put anything like that in his book. It was just like 60 pages of learning how to fence, like sword fight. Another 50 pages of learning how to fly. 1 page of Iron Maiden. We played a show. I left the show, and then I went and did fencing. 10 more pages. I'm like, fuck.
There was more than that. He talks about some of those.
But not like, if you're gonna read Bruce's book, that's what you want to read about is behind the scenes shit with Iron Maiden, not 10 pages.
Maybe
how to fucking fence. I don't give a fuck about that.
Not necessarily, because I think what makes Bruce Dickinson such a fascinating frontman is like all his extracurricular stuff, the
cool.
Flying airplanes, the fencing, soccer.
Learning how to fly is like, it's worth a few pages in fencing, but like not the whole book. It was like 1/3 Iron Maiden, the whole book, and the rest of it was fencing and flying and then cancer. I was like, oh fuck.
Well, so, it's about as, I mean, I don't know, like I'll have to read it again. I might read it again just to see if I can get a.
What books? Maybe we can do a show on metal books. Like what books have you read like that pertain to metal? You've read the John Zazula book, right? Megaforce.
I read. Yeah, and I've read Chasing Heavy, the Brian Slagel book. That one's pretty good.
I didn't know there was a book about him. How's that one?
I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. One of my favorite parts in that book was because one of my favorite bands is Fate's Warning, and they were one of the very, very first, part of that first wave of Metal Blade bands, and they were on Metal Blade forever. And
I can't believe you like anything on Metal Blade.
I love Metal Blade. Cannibal Corpse is on Metal Blade. Motherfucker.
Oh yeah, but they suck.
They don't. But one of my favorite stories from that book is, so I'm a huge Fates Warning fan, and not many people, know Fates Warning. Like, they're not mainstream. But Alice in Chains, Lane Staley ran into like
Yeah.
Brian Slagel was at a Fates Warning concert, and Lane Staley, the singer for Alice in Chains, who got fucking huge, obviously, was too shy to ask Ray Alder for an autograph because he was such a huge Ray Alder fan, and Ray Alder's the singer for Fates Warning. So I don't know. I really that story stuck out with me in the Brian Slagel book. Was, Lane Staley, the guy who went to, well, he's dead now, but sang for probably one of the biggest alternative bands in the world, was nervous about meeting Fates Warning because that was like one of his favorite bands. So, which kind of pisses me off because you never hear Lane Staley mention how much of a fan he is of Fates Warning, which is weird.
Well, he is dead.
Yeah, I mean, he can't say it now, but would have helped, while he was alive, and Fates Warning was probably, has always been a struggling band. Another funny kind of Fates Warning connection is like a 6 Degrees of Fates Warning. You know the band Weezer?
Yeah.
Their guitar player, I forget his name, the main guy.
No, I fucking did.
I want to say Reed. Jesus.
The
One
hell
second.
is that?
That's just noise.
It's just a noise.
Just a noise. So it is Rivers. That's what I was like. He's got a weird name. Rivers Cuomo. So like the main guy took guitar lessons from the guitar player from Jim Matheos of Fates Warning. So
Fates Warning was pretty much out there then, huh? They have a lot of albums out. I'm looking on the BNR Metal page. I had no idea they had so many albums.
yeah, dude, they've been active.
No Exits, like the last one I knew of. That one came into the radio station when I worked there in Perfect Symmetry. After that, I didn't know they existed still. But god damn, they have a lot of albums.
Are you familiar with No Exit that much? Because
No.
I kind of always wondered what your opinion of that album is, because I think it's the heaviest Fates Warning album. I think it's a borderline thrash album.
That one came out. It came out according to this in 1988.
Yeah, it's the first one with their Ray
That's
Alder, the
weird
new
because
singer.
that's the year I discovered Awaken the Guardian. Or maybe it was 87 when I discovered Awaken the Guardian. I told you that story.
Yeah.
Awaken the Guardian, I thought was the Nasty Savage album, Indulgence, because I got covers crossed. I got my wires crossed, and I thought the album covers were like identical, and they kind of aren't really, but they both do have like a weird landscape thing going on. So
Yeah.
Awaken the Guardian, I remember buying that. It was in the summertime, and it was blistering hot out here in Utah. It was like July, like it is right now. It was a motherfucking hot. And I went inside, had all the window blinds drawn. It was a hot summer day, and the air conditioner was going. And I just put that record on. I fell asleep listening to it a couple of times, and
that was a trip.
Good thing for me, because if I fell asleep like to a record, I knew it was a good one. But it was melodic, and I was surprised. I was expecting Nasty Savage as heavy thrash, and instead I got this melodic, weird Iron Maiden slash. What would you call it? I don't know.
It's
mystical
sort of
sounding metal.
Well, they're kind of considered one of the first like progressive metal bands. I don't even know if progressive metal was a term, but just a band that was taking a lot more elements, as far as technique and other influences, rather than doing straight ahead metal, borrowing a lot more from like Rush and Genesis and that kind of thing, and putting it into like Iron Maiden type metal. So they were like kind of the godfathers of prog metal, and I think when Dream Theater came along, that's when progressive metal became like a term, right? But Fates Warning is kind of the precursor to Dream Theater.
So I would say they're kind of underrated. It seems like
extremely, yeah.
They were so dreamy sounding too. They had that dreamy kind of soundscape, and
and
they weren't like metal, like screaming heavy metal like Judas Priest or something. They were like this dreamy but heavy.
Yeah, kind of surreal feeling, like the music. They're one of those bands.
Describe them.
Yeah, they're one of those bands. You know how like it's always, you know, kind of going back to album covers. I love it when the music actually seems to match the album cover. You know what I mean?
That's also a good analogy because that's exactly it matches the album covers exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I really kind of treasure those early Fates Warning albums. I love the later stuff too, but there is something kind of, you know, fantastical. You know, there's a like a fantasy element, but not in a cheesy way, not like power metal. It's more like a dark. It's like dark, you know, kind of a dark.
And then that's also strange because I'm looking on the BNR metal pages here, and you've got Night on Brocken, which is always not available other than as an import from them for whatever reason. And then I've got the Metal Blade one depicted here, which has a cover I've never seen. It has like someone in a forest with
yeah, kind of like a witchfinder sort of. It almost looks like
it looks like that. Now here's what's weird is I bought their first album at Hastings in the Crossroads Mall back in the 80s.
Yeah,
no one else had it, and I bought it there, and that's a totally different album cover. It was a black album cover
with a full moon on it, basically.
Yeah, it was a nighttime scene of a girl being burned at the stake. It had a photo on the back, and I've never seen that cover anywhere. And I got rid of that album like a dumbass. I should have kept it. It's probably worth thousands of dollars just because of the cover.
Extremely rare. Yeah.
Oh man, that sucks.
but that's that's.
I saw another version of that cover too. I think like somewhere. I think it started to come into the radio station when they got popular or it got reissued. And I think it was the other artist who does The Spectre Within and Waken the Guardian, those covers. I think maybe it was that guy, and they did a new cover of it. But it's not this one either. So I think there are at least 3 that I can think of.
Yeah, I like The Spectre Within, too. And then after the No Exit cover is kind of shitty. But once again, it kind of matches the music, though. It's a little brighter, a little...
Well, it just looks
angrier.
Gray, like hallway and a gray floor, but like this big swath of color up front, so it's just kind of like visually
a big splash of red. Yeah.
And after that, it's all just kind of nondescript, whatever. But
well, they kind of went into more. They started using Hugh Syme, who basically did every Rush album cover, which is an episode.
That's kind of what it looks like.
But
yes, you're listening to Metally Challenge, Mark Metal Blade Hansen. Morning of the Fates with his owl above his head in the park, and the Master Butcher J.R. Torita here. We were going to talk about Iron Maiden. We might touch on that, or we might talk about metal books that we read. So,
yeah, we were talking about metal books. Now, I mean,
this Metal Blade book we got on Fate's Warning there. What else is in there? Obviously, Slayer's in there.
Yeah, Slayer's in there. Slayer's in there. Of course, Armored Saint. You know, he talks about a lot of those early.
Metal Blade?
Oh yeah, Armored Saint, dude.
I remember them being on Metal Blade.
Tracy Vera, Joey Vera's wife, is the vice president of Metal Blades now, or she might actually be the president of Metal Blades. I can't remember. Brian Slagel may have even stepped down. In fact, let me just look that up because, yeah. So Armored Saint is practically a partner with Metal Blade Records, because you know the bass player Joey Vera.
The records came out on that label, though, did it?
Oh yeah. I think almost every record came out.
I don't remember being on Metal Blade.
Oh yeah, dude.
I thought they were on a major label when they put out their first album because they had a video and everything, and he wouldn't have had money to do that. Yeah, Chrysalis Records, March of the Saint. None of that was later on, Symbol of Salvation. Okay, yeah, that's right. They went. That was in the 80s. I remember it. I remember that came out, and that album. My friend, one of my best friends was super into Armored Saint, and he thought that album was so good, and he lent it to me, and I was like, yeah, it's all right. You know, by then I was like, grindcore up the wazoo. I didn't give a fuck about any other kind of metal, but I listened to it and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good slab of metal. And strangely enough, Armored Saint were also featured in the movie Hellraiser 3. They were in a nightclub playing Hanging Judge, I think was the song.
Uh-huh.
They were in a nightclub and then Pinhead came in and started killing everybody. It was one of the worst Hellraiser movies of all time. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was like after the elegance of Hellraiser 2 with the English people like cheating on each other and killing each other and using demons. They come out with this fucking American fucking Freddy Krueger hack job bullshit with one-liners and quips, and it was just fucking terrible. It's so bad. But it's like so bad it's good. It's a guilty pleasure movie. But Armored Saints in there.
Yeah, all I remember from that movie is it's like some chick getting her skin sucked off, like just like
Yeah, that
completely.
was the guy who owns the club was fucking a girl, and he had this statue he bought that Pinhead's essence was in the statue somehow from the last movie. And he got
ate her
close
skin.
to him while they were fucking, and he sucked her skin off, and she was bitching him out because he kicked her out of his room because she just wanted to fuck her, and she's like, "Who do you think you are?" And it sucked off her skin, and he's like, "Oh shit, what you did, that was evil, man." And ah, yes, evil. How does it feel on your lips to say those words? Oh, so according to this, Armored Saints' first EP, which is their first release, was in 1983, and that was on Metal Blade. Then suddenly they're on Chrysalis for their first album.
Now, were they on Chrysalis, like signed to Chrysalis, or didn't? Because I know Slagel, what he did a lot, I think, in the early days, was he had signed the band and then licensed them out, I believe, for
You know, that's
distro.
funny too that you say that because I read John Zazula's book, and that's how he made his money. Because otherwise,
Maybe I'm getting my books. I might be getting my books crossed then, because I did read those practically back to back.
Maybe that's interesting if he did do that, but according to this, it's Chrysalis Records, and it would make sense because at that time in heavy metal history, this is when heavy metal in 1983, 84 was just bursting up on the scenes, getting popular. So it was all those bands: Wasp, Twisted Sister, Rat, Kiss, Motley Crue, Van Halen, like everybody, like they were getting snatched up everywhere. That was the thing. Hard to believe
Yeah.
there was a time like that because what the fuck? Look at our music these days. Like what the fuck happened?
Well, it all fell
Perry,
apart.
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Who the fuck won like rock at the Grammys? It was Jethro Tull one year, and then last year like Nickelback or somebody or some totally fucking stupid fucking bullshit band. It's not even close to being rock or metal.
No, yeah, there's Jethro Tull.
They won the heavy metal
Metallica.
thing one year, but then also I think last year it was like some other like ridiculous band. It's not even close.
Last year I think it was Dream Theater, or was that this year?
Yeah, maybe it was Dream Theater. Yeah, it's pretty lame.
Yeah, dude, they're metal.
I remember when Metallica was on the Grammys too, and that was their big moment because they always said they'd never sell out, and I was like, you're on the Grammys now. You sold out.
Well, I mean,
Little did I know what was to come after that. Like, goddamn, they were playing a one on the Grammys from "And Justice for All."
yeah. And well, actually, and I think the year before that, Megadeth got the Grammy, or they might have got it in 2017 or 18. Megadeth got a Grammy within the last couple of years off their newest album. I know that because when I was writing content for Kiko Loureiro, their guitar player, a lot of the content I'd write would be Grammy nominated, no, Grammy winning, I think, artist Kiko Loureiro, because it was a track that I think he co-wrote with Dave Mustaine. So
now, speaking of Megadeth, they were never on. They were on Combat when they started, and then their second record got picked up by Capitol. So same thing. It was like heavy metal all over again, but now thrash metal. So you had Capitol Records picking up bands like Megadeth. They never would have done that ever.
right.
Because thrash was getting so big, like with Slayer and Metallica, like Megadeth gets on Capitol Records. But I always thought it was interesting how their first album, they've changed the cover of it since this time. But like, I like the original cover. It's such a heavy metal cover with the skull on it, with all the metal clamps on his head. And Megadeth, "Killing Is My Business." Cover. Yes. It looks like a Metal Blade album cover, like a 2-bit. Like they just got a skull from a
Halloween shop or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they put like the visor on it and like the clamps on it. It's really weird. And it's cool, and it's got fire in the background. There's chains. It's like Sabotage, The Dungeons Are Calling. I love that cover too, and that's on Metal Blade, I think, or is that on Combat? But anyway, Megadeth, like they had a cover of Nancy Sinatra, These Boots, and it is always on there. And then for some reason, like years and years later, it disappeared from that. I guess she found out about it and said, "Fuck you guys! Like, what do you think you're doing?" or something.
Really?
It's disappeared ever since from that release, and they changed the cover of it too. It's just some silly painting of the skull.
I know, like if you stream it, like on the streaming sites, it has These Boots. Because I listened to that album fairly recently.
Because the Combat Records, they re-released all their old thrash albums back when it had the Abyss, actually, like around 2004 or 5. And I got all those in. And Megadeth, not only was the cover different, which was disappointing, but it was also they didn't have These Boots on it, which it wasn't a good song. It was kind of a stupid song that they did.
But... yeah, it was sort of like one of those, hey, this is. But that's kind of goes back to.
I don't remember if they changed the cover or not, but I know that I saw that record come into the radio station and it had a cover. It was like a painting of Vic Rattlehead. It was like this repeated painting all over the cover, and like it wasn't. Maybe I think Combat re-released a CD. It had the original cover, but These Boots was not on there. The song. And of course, the story of Mechanics, right? The song Mechanics. That's originally the Four Horsemen.
Yeah. Which
by Metallica. It was his music that he wrote, but not his lyrics. So he did his own version of it. It was faster, and it was like a sexual car kind of innuendo thing. So that, and Sirens by Sabotage. Their first album looks like they changed the cover on that, but that was on some other label. Then The Dungeons Are Calling on Combat.
Was that Combat? Okay, so they weren't Metal Blade. So, but I think it's almost like you had Metal Blade was West Coast, I think.
Yeah,
and then you had Azula's label. For some reason, that label always slips my mind.
Megaforce?
Megaforce was like East Coast, right? So you had like Metallica.
Yeah, he was doing it a lot earlier than Metal Blade, I think. Megaforce, I remember seeing ads in Hit Parader when I was in high school in the 80s. I was always interested in it, but it was one of those things where you were a little scared of it because it wasn't quite like that presentation of the major label. It wasn't like a big glossy full page ad. Instead, it was this like little cheap half ad in Hit Parader where it was like hand drawn of the album covers, hand drawn representations. Or I remember one time there was a little cartoon strip of these two metal bros walking into a metal shop. They say, "Hey Joe, any new metal come in? Yeah, guys, check this out." And there's like drawings of these 2-3 guys looking at records, and it's like the Megaforce records, like drawings of it to the T, like Anthrax's first album, Fistful of Metal. And I still have those Hit Paraders somewhere that has that cartoon in it. But
those are great. Those, hold on to those. Those are probably pretty rare too.
I remember,
which is weird because that would be cool these days. Like it's almost like full circle where an ad like that would just be kind of kick ass.
I can't remember. I think that was the only one, but there was also some other ad they did where it's just album covers, and I would just look at those album covers and gaze at them in marvel and amazement, and like just they were so dark and scary, because there were bands like Gravedigger, and stuff like that.
Okay.
I was like, wow, look at these covers. These are weird. Look at these bands and these band names like Gravedigger, and there's another one, Blue Cheer, like the band who sings
Summertime. Well, that's a cover.
Yeah, that one. But they had this other album called The Beast Is Back or something, and it had this monster on it. I was like, whoa, what's that? And like Raven and Metallica and Anthrax and all these bands, and they're the guys who wrote Metallica. And I read his book. His book was pretty interesting. He kind of goes off on God a little bit here and there, a little too much for my liking. But I'm like,
well,
But whatever. I mean, you just put it aside.
The guy,
it wasn't like preachy like you should do it. He was just saying, I'm going to tell you that I believe God, and I'm going to say that here and there in this book. I'm like, okay, fine.
But obviously that was never a factor, like in who he signed, because he signed some pretty, I don't know if any like satanic bands were on the label, but definitely bands that were very anti-establishment, and pretty, at least for the day, were pretty
He helped break Metallica. I think he was kind of instrumental. Something I can't remember. There was a story about Slayer where they stayed at
Well, yeah,
his
he worked with
time.
Slayer. Yeah.
And then he's the one who gave, I can't remember what he had to do with Slayer, but Metallica broke big because of him. And then later on, years down the road, he did Testament, where he
Yeah,
brought
yeah.
Ace Frehley back when Ace Frehley was making his comeback with Frehley's Comet. That was on Megaforce. And that was
Okay.
actually probably one of the most glossy produced albums he put out up to that point.
Yeah, I kind of want to listen to those newer Ace Frehley albums just to.
What, Frehley's Comet?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember the song on the radio.
Rock Soldier?
There in the night. Dun,
See that stuff? It
somewhere.
sounds like it's from that time. It's like it's from that era, the '80s, that polished rock metal, like not glam, but kind of that sound, that '80s big sound.
Yeah.
That's what Ace's stuff sounds like. And I thought, this doesn't really, it's not doing it for me. It's not like his solo album from Kiss in the '70s. It's not honest, balls to the wall, just rock, punch in the face. It's
Uh,
not the same. And I think that's what Ace was trying to do, and that's what everybody was trying to push him into doing because he was having a lot of problems. He was getting off liquor and all that. That's what the song "Rock Soldiers" is about because he wrecked his car and he almost died.
yeah.
So he was trying to come back and be clean and do all that, and he couldn't do it. And then he disappeared again after like a few albums, and then he came back with a couple of solo albums, like some really good, honest solo albums again. And then he comes out with the album, which was Anomaly. And it came out way later than he planned, but there's an album, Ace Frehley Anomaly. It's a really good, solid hard rock record. It's got a sequel to Fractured Mirror on it. It's got a cover of, I think, is it ELO? Do you want my love? Or no,
Uh,
Fox on the Run by Sweet. That's what he covers.
okay.
Fox on the Run. Like he covers that. It's a really good album. And if you know your Ace Frehley, there's a funny little wink, nod at you in there. There's a song called Space Bear.
Space Bear.
Okay, well, the reason why that's funny is because as a Kiss fan, of course, I know this. In the '70s, late '70s, there's a talk show called Tonight or Late Night with Tom Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Snyder is basically your average dreary '70s white guy who wears loafers and a sweater and with a
Right.
tie.
Yeah.
And he just has a late night talk show. Usually he's talking to people about acting or like corporate stuff or whatever the fuck or sports. Well, he has Kiss on one night. Gene and Paul, of course, they're like, he's no clue about Kiss. He's like, why do you guys look like this? Why do you wear that makeup? You look like monsters. And what kind of music do you play? Like, people like this and da da da. Completely clueless to anything about rock at all, let alone Kiss. So then Ace Frehley and Peter, who never talk, Tom Snyder's like trying to get Ace to talk, and like Ace Frehley takes over the interview completely, and like he's just making fun of everything and everyone. And it's hilarious. It's so funny. And then Gene and Paul are trying to do the whole, well, Kiss, what we do is we play music for everybody. So we want to play rock and roll, and hey, it doesn't matter. They're doing their whole corporate spiel.
Mm-hmm.
And Ace just interrupts Gene every 5 minutes, and Paul, and they're both.
I've seen that. You can find that interview
You
on
gotta watch
YouTube.
it. It's on YouTube, but there's a
I
long
have.
uncut version. Like if you watch that, it's on like the Kissology DVD, or you can maybe find that on YouTube. But it's so fucking funny because he just stole the show because he's so funny and he was so charming. And there's this little teddy bear that Tom Snyder had on set on these couches. You'd sit on these couches and talk to him. So Ace was taking off his spaceman armbands, and put him on the bear and called it Space Bear. He kept playing with it like when they kept talking. And so there's a song called
Hey, look, it's Space Bear.
Well, that's what it was funny because he kept saying stuff like, and then Tom Snyder at one point said Gene Simmons was the bass player. And so obviously Tom Snyder knows nothing about music because he said bass, not bass. So you can hear Ace just cackle like that in the background. And he goes, I'm the trout player. He's like, you're the what? He's like, I'm the fish. I play the trout.
Now Ace Frehley's just being a little anyways, we're Kiss, the hottest band in the world.
Trying to come in like, anyway, like what we do, and then Ace comes back on, and you can tell that Gene and Paul were just.
Then Paul Stanley comes in, and Paul Stanley's like,
yeah, and then it's hilarious because they're both trying to do their corporate rhetoric about Kiss, trying to sell Kiss to Tom Snyder and his audience, and the Ace and
we just want to rock and roll.
Yeah, it's so funny. And even Peter Criss, like Peter Criss has never been on an interview, and Peter Criss was telling all these stories about like being scared to death on his drum riser when it's flying up in the air. And it was really a funny, honest Kiss interview. That's why it was so good, and fans loved that interview. And Gene and Paul were fucking furious because they just not because of they say Ace was drunk, but it was
I
funny.
think he was.
Well, drunk or not, he didn't seem drunk. He was talking and making sense, but it was just he stole the show because he was so fucking funny and charming. And Peter Criss too. Gene
Dude,
and
it's
Paul were so fucking mad that they got the spotlight stolen from them. They were irate. You could just see it in their eyes. They were so fucking mad. I was like, yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna have to watch that video again because like it's so funny to hear you say that. Because like literally like every like caption,
every Kiss fan who's a real Kiss fan loves that fucking thing. That's
but
why
like
Ace is
every time
so much.
Every time it comes up on like the YouTube algorithm, like if I'm on a Kiss deep dive or something like that, it's always like Ace humiliates himself on Tom Snyder or Ace and
he doesn't humiliate himself,
you know.
though.
So I have to watch it again.
I don't even know if he was drunk or not. You can't really tell, but he was just being so funny and so sincere. And Gene and Paul were just such bullshit, corporate bullshit. Like, shut up. I don't want to hear your corporate shit. And it was funny because Tom Snyder had a docket that was explaining each band member, and it said Ace Frehley probably won't even speak. I was like, yeah. Really? So it was so funny because he was expecting Gene.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I like it. I like stuff that's unscripted, and I like, believe it or not, I actually like Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Just like I kind of understand why they're so, I guess, uptight maybe about, I mean, protecting.
They want to succeed and they want to make money, and that's understandable. And I get it. The Ace and Peter with their substance abuse issues, like they wouldn't show up to record or for practice, or they would be drunk at a show. And of course, that would piss them off. That would piss me off. But at the same time, it's rock and roll, guys. I mean, let loose a little bit. Fuck, come on. Like, it's not a business. Rock and roll is a business, but it's not a business. You got to use your balls. You can't just be like everything on a ledger. Not everybody's drug free. I mean, I am, but yeah. I can see both sides of that argument. But at the same time, it's like, like if you're playing on a tour, they're gonna get drunk and they're gonna fuck. I mean, that's what you do if you're a young rock star in that time, anyway. Now it's like people get on fucking TikTok and share videos and taking pictures of their food.
Since you're based, like I'm kind of like the, I guess that makes me almost like the, the Ace Frehley to your Gene Simmons. You're like this.
What are you saying?
Like what I'm saying is you need to find like a Butch Vig for me. So on those days that I flake out, or Anton Fig, sorry.
Well, I mean, that's different because we can record whenever, but you're Ace Frehley, huh?
Yeah, it's just only because I couldn't think of the drummer's name. Well, I am a guitar player.
Peter Criss.
Yeah, Peter Criss.
And even Peter Criss got on that interview too, and
It's funny. I was trying to think of Peter Criss's name, but I went through like literally every Kiss drummer, even Anton Fig, and I couldn't think of Peter Criss.
Anton Fig. Well, of course, you're a prog dude. Like you know all these other people that nobody else knows, but you don't know like the big shot guys from. So how much Kiss do you really know? Is what I want.
I know Mark St. John, I know Bruce Kulick, I know Bob Kulick, I know Vinnie Vincent, and then there's like one other guy, Tommy Thayer. That's who it is.
Yeah,
the spaceman himself.
What?
The spaceman, Tommy Thayer.
Book that. He's not the spaceman.
Yeah, he is. He is to me.
Of course, because you like everything I hate, and you hate everything
I hate him.
No, you like him. I don't.
Tommy Thayer taught Ace Frehley everything he knows about himself.
Yeah, sure. I know you're trying to piss me off, but you can just take that shit and fuck right off with that, pal. take your Tommy Thayer and your Donald Trump and jump off the cliff.
Tommy Thayer is
and acids.
Tommy Thayer is the cold lake of Kiss guitar players.
He sure is.
I'll agree. Like he would be actually my least favorite Kiss guitar player. My favorite is Mark St. John or Vinnie Vincent.
Yeah, that's something I'd expect you to say, especially the Mark St. John, because it's just so out there, and he's like of the glam era somewhat. And Tommy Thayer is not untalented at all, and he actually, I'm sure he's a nice guy. He gets a lot of heat, but you got to think that people are so mad because Gene and Paul have done this with Ace and Peter, and they've taken characters they created, Ace and Peter, and they've marketed that and taken it as their own now. So even Ace and Peter can't dress up like those characters on their own.
Right. Well, no, because they sold their right. They sold the right.
They did, but the thing is they tricked them into it. They had all this legality, and of course, Ace and Peter aren't going to read all that bullshit, and they didn't. I think they just went ahead and did it. But
I think if you're at that level, you need to read all the fine print.
That aside, though, I mean, you have Kiss going on tour saying that they're this is Kiss, like this isn't them masquerading as Tommy or as Ace and Peter. This is now the Catman and the Spaceman. It's like, no, what you're not getting, Gene and Paul, is put aside your corporate bullshit for a minute and just think for souls that as Kiss fans, we like those characters, i.e. those people, not the characters.
But
we
they
like
bring up a good
because of Ace and Peter brought to it.
Yeah, but on the flip side, they do bring up a good point that they are characters, much like but
they're not.
You're gonna have Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Daniel Craig. They're all 007. And you're gonna have your preferences, but at the end of the day, they're playing a character. Yeah.
But they're not. Those guys are playing a character, yeah. But the ones created are by Ace and Peter. That's who they were. Like Ace with that staggering walk, that's just his posture, and Tommy Thayer apes that on stage. And Eric Singer's not really doing anything that Peter Criss does. I mean, Eric Singer is obviously a better drummer and like more into rock than Peter Criss ever was. And he's just there. I mean, I don't hate Eric Singer. He's just there, just doing what he's doing. And I would do it too, probably, if I was one of those guys and I was going to just join paid to make millions. Of course I.
Oh yeah, dude. But Tommy Thayer was painting, like his side job was like a painter, and he was painting Gene Simmons' house or something like that before he joined Kiss.
Well, he was in Black and Blue. Did you ever like that band?
Oh yeah. Well, I like Black and Blue, but I haven't really dug into their music. But I'd probably like it.
You know what's funny is I was at a record store once and they played that album by Black and Blue, the first one, and it had that song "Hold On to 18." That was their single.
Yeah, that's the only song I really remember.
The rest of the album, they were playing it in this record shop, and I was like, man, that's actually pretty good. Like, I didn't really think much of Black and Blue. They were just kind of there, but they had like a lot of like galloping double bass drums and like this really hard like instrumental stuff going on. I was like, that's not bad, man. I was almost gonna buy it and I never did. Never got around.
Why do you think that was? Like, because it seems like almost everything was like that back in the day, where like the single, right, the one that would get played most of the time. I mean, there's exceptions, but most of the time it's like the worst track on the album. I never understood that.
It's because they were heavier bands back then, because that was the style, was heavy metal, and it was already going the route of that glam or pop or just like radio metal, and they were trying to sell stuff to the labels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kiss did that back in the day with Rock and Roll All Night. That's the only reason that song exists, because they were trying to make an anthemic hit single to get themselves known, and that's what they did with that song. It didn't quite work off the album, but when they played it live and got the audience involved, that was so unusual back then. That's what made them go over big when the live came out. It's just all that anthemic stuff and like trying to get people into your music and like trying to get a hit single. It's like all those bits. That's always the song nobody likes. Like, you don't like Another Thing Coming by Judas Priest or Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight, because you're so sick of it. But all the other songs on those records are always the good ones that nobody, and of course all the real fans of the band like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go to work and you're like, somebody who's at work that's not a metalhead, but they're like, oh yeah, I like this song, Breaking the Law. And like,
you know what's weird is like I do actually like, I mean, I like You Got Another Thing Coming, and I like Living After Midnight, but even the first time I heard Breaking the Law, I never liked that song. I don't like. There's certain note choices.
Well,
That
British Steel is a
na na
great
na
album.
na. I just don't like those notes. Does that make sense? Na
Yeah,
na na
I'm
na.
not particularly
It's
a fan of that song or
it's
that album.
it's
As you know, I do
it's a
not love that record.
variation. So one of my least favorite songs in the entire world, okay, is "Fade to Black" by the Rolling Stones. I hate that vibe, those notes. And so any song that kind of has that sort of, you know, I don't know what the exact notes are. I just, ugh, just it's cringe to me. And it just blows my mind that like a song like Fade to Black is just huge. That's the song title, right? Fade to Black by Rolling Stone.
No, that's
Oh,
Metallica's Fade
Paint
to
It
Black.
Black. Paint
Painted.
It Black.
And Wasp
Fuck, I
actually
hate.
covered that song. It was the B-side of Animal Fuck Like a Beast.
I know, and I hate that song. And there's so many covers of that song. I don't know why everybody loves that song. I hate it.
Everybody treats that song now because of Hollywood, because it's like this evil song about demons and the devil, and it's not. And the Rolling Stones dabbled in that, and they didn't. That bad shit happened to them, so they got out of it. But it's
I
clearly it was just a coincidence. But I mean,
it's just
I hate
those
when that
notes.
song's on movies, like the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington. He's chasing a demon that's possessing people, and it's like the end of it has that song, and like the end of Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves, where Al Pacino's his father and he's
Yeah,
Satan.
yeah.
It's on there. I'm like, fuck this song. Fuck the Rolling Stones. Fuck that song.
Uh, I just well, no, I just hate that song for
There's
existing.
just songs people like just need to have. It's
Yeah, and I don't get it. Like that's just one of those ones. I'm just like, why does anybody like those notes?
well, I don't
Those
like
notes
British
suck.
Steel. The whole album is like that for me, more or less. There's a lot of just fodder and filler on there. And like, obviously, my
Yeah,
favorite song is "The Rage" on side two. So what does that tell you about what I think of it? So it's like one of the throwaway tracks.
I like Grinder. I did listen to that album a little bit the other day. Grinder's a good song. And even Metal Gods, I kind of like that song. I didn't like it at the first, like when I first heard it, because the chorus was sort of this drone. I thought it sounded dumb, but now I kind of get it. You know, it's supposed to, I guess, sort of be like almost like a Gregorian sort of, oh, you know, type thing. But yeah, whatever. They made up for it after when they
Well,
did
okay,
Scream
and here you
Vengeance.
go. Let's talk about that because you think that Cold Lake, like Celtic Frost, is a very credible album, whereas the band even hate it.
Well,
And even off
no, dude,
that
I don't
album,
think it's an incredible album. In fact, to be
no, I
honest,
said credible,
I haven't
not
listened.
incredible,
Oh,
just
credible.
credible.
Yeah, it's credible, sure.
Whereas the
But
common
I
Celtic
haven't listened
Frost
to
fan
it in
is like, fuck
years.
that piece of shit. So
I to be honest, I haven't listened to that album in probably a good 2 or 3
well,
years.
what
You
I'm
know?
saying is there's the single off of that Cherry Orchards, which is arguably the most sexy, swanky, wah wah kind of song on there. And the rest of it's really not quite like that. There's a few other songs that are almost as passable as just Celtic Frost, because it is Celtic Frost, even though it's a completely different band and they're doing swanky dick rock. But um, the stuff I have heard from it isn't quite so bad. And Cherry Orchards, of course, is just this sassy, swanky, tease me, please me, kind of fuck me song. And that was the single, and they had a video for it, and the video was fucking awful too. It's like Tom Warrior is, but like trying to be glam is like, oh fuck no, like damn,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you don't look good in pink makeup, buddy. Like give that up right now. It's like summon your girls you want to fuck. So, um, but there's always like the hit single, and even like that, you know, I don't know. There's always got to be that. Like Kiss does that like on every album.
Well, I mean, I know there's got to be a single and it's got to be a hit, but I know a lot of times those singles are chosen by record executives, that kind of thing.
Like Detroit Rock City was the single from Destroyer,
Uh,
and it was
yeah,
pared down without all the effects and the instrumental bridge, the dun 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 dun
uh,
dun dun dun. Dun. They cut all that out and they went right to the
oh, really?
solo at the end of it.
I didn't
And then,
know
of
that.
course, as you know, what happened is the radio stations flipped over the record and played Beth, and Beth became a smash hit because it was the most gentle, pussyish song on the album. So
Yeah, that's
to
what
this day, you hear Beth on the radio, and I just cringe. I'm like, fuck that song. It's not even about his girlfriend. Everybody thinks it's Peter singing to his girlfriend while he's on tour. It's not what it is. So.
No, yeah, it's about a groupie, but
No, it's not.
I know it's about his mother, but
Nope.
okay, yeah, it's about a sister.
It's about one of
And
his friends from his old band had a wife that was really up his ass, but always call him all the time and bug him and tell him to come home and quit fucking around with these guys in this band and come home. And her name was Beck, as in Becky, Rebecca.
Beck.
And then he was
Oh,
singing that in the car with Gene Simmons and Paul in a limo. And they were like, "Are you singing about Jeff Beck? You better change the lyrics. People are going to think you're playing for the other team, fella." And then he changed it. And I guess the guy, Bob Ezrin, who produced Destroyer, heard him singing that and they turned it into Beth. And
huh.
if you don't know Kiss or that story, you hear him singing that and you think, "Oh, he's on tour and he misses his girlfriend, Beth. Aw." And that's what it sounds like, and that's not what it is. But of course, and now live he plays that song, or when he was with them, he dedicated to his mom, who's deceased. So
Oh, I did. Okay, well,
whole different
yeah.
thing now.
So,
But I
so
mean,
I,
that's
I
the
was
origins
sort
of
of
Beth.
right.
The origins of Beth was Beck, not about Jeff Beck, though.
Yeah, well, I don't imagine it would be.
So, anyways, I brought up Celtic Frost. Sorry, I went way off on a tangent, but I've read
Oh, yeah.
Tom's book. Have you read Tom Warrior's book? Or Are You Morbid? An autobiography.
No, I didn't know he had a book.
Oh, he's got two actually. I'll have to let you borrow those. There's one called Are You Morbid that came out first, and it just covers his entire career, mostly of Celtic Frost.
Uh-huh.
And in that book, he's very humble, very self-deprecating. He's funny. He's like talking about how sometimes he just tried to fuck groupies, and he's ashamed of that, because he was being a caveman and yada yada. And a lot of it covers the Cherry Orchards era, which you would fucking love, and it tells like how horrible it was for him because that band.
That makes me
First
feel
off,
bad though. Like I hope he's not totally ashamed of it. I mean, like
well,
it's
you
where
got to
his
look.
headspace was at.
Well, I mean, you got to understand. In this book, he describes how he didn't ever think of himself as a legend, and we touched on this when we talked about
Hmm.
this before a couple of shows ago. Is he always thought he's like, yeah, whatever. I just did this band, whatever. It's not a big deal.
So
And people
he
said,
didn't
no,
realize what kind of
it's a big
impact he
deal.
was making.
Everybody from me down to the younger kids, the older guy, like, no, no, we fucking love your music. You're a god. And he's like, no, no, get out of here. And I think he finally gets it, especially since they got back together and went up to Norway and recorded, or in Sweden at Peter Tagdegren from Hypocrisy's studio, Abyss Studios, their big comeback album. And meeting all those guys too, it made him realize, like, wow, even Hellhammer? And they're like, yes, Hellhammer. We love everything you did. You're a fucking god. We forgive you for Cold Lake.
Interesting thing about Hellhammer. That's a drummer, right? Oh wait, no,
No,
never
that's the
mind.
first band before Celtic Frost was Hellhammer.
Right. Okay, but there is a drummer
Drum
named
Mayhem
Hellhammer,
is
right?
named after that band.
That same drummer played on um some have you ever heard of that Euro, like kind of a melodic metal singer named Jorn?
What are you talking about?
There's
Yep,
a singer. Yeah, there's a
real name is Jorn.
yeah, his
Or no,
name's
it's
Jorn.
an Axel. Sorry, that's not Jorn.
Yeah, no, this guy's name's
And
Jorn.
Axel Hammer.
Yeah. No, but there's a guy that sings like really kind of straight melodic, really like emotional melodic metal. And I think Hellhammer, the drummer, plays on some of the stuff. It's whatever.
Well, probably.
Uh,
Hellhammer was in a lot of bands. He was in
yeah,
Arcturus, which are very proggy. He was in a couple of different thrash and black metal bands. He was in.
yeah, yeah. This is a very almost 80s
There's a band
kind
called
of.
Covenant that he played in that plays like a cyber kind of metal, like kind of thing, and like Rammsteinish.
I don't, well, just because he's kind of like a prog metal singer.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
I don't either. I just heard Hellhammer and it just like, hey,
Well,
that's
I'm
the
talking
drummer
about
for Yorn Land.
Tom Warrior.
Yeah, I know. We'll go back to Tom Warrior. But no, I have not read the Tom Warrior books. The closest thing I've seen to a Tom Warrior, well, it's not even a Tom Warrior biography, there was this documentary on H.R. Geiger. Giger. Okay. H.R. Geiger. And I guess Tom Warrior is like kind of like almost like his became almost like a assistant to him kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know, because
I know the documentary you're talking about. It
it,
was so
it,
disappointing. It wasn't very good. But
really disappointing. Yeah, it
Tom Warrior
really.
riding a bicycle.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like
He's all,
I
"Hi, how's
love
Rudy?"
I love H.R. Giger. Um, like fascinated by especially
So
his
much so that you
airbrush.
couldn't pronounce his name.
Well,
But
Geiger Giger. Um, I've heard it pronounced both ways, but it really
it's like Celtic Frost and Celtic Frost. Everybody wants to say Geiger. It's not Geiger. It's pronounced Giger. Just
all
like
right,
Celtic Frost is actually Celtic Frost. But anyway, I know
right,
the documentary you're talking about, and that's
yeah,
a little bit of Tom in there. And
yeah,
but you
and
should read the book. The book, Are You Morbid? It focuses on Celtic Frost, and specifically, it goes really into detail about the Cold Lake years. It explains why he did that. They were so stressed out from the ominous, like heavy duty just stress of recording Into the Pandemonium because it was so epic and so sweeping avant garde.
so it was almost like they're sort of just like, let's do something fun.
Well, that's what Cold Lake was. It was like
Yeah.
fuck it all. Let's just do this. I want to get this shit out of my system. Let's do something like just for the fuck of it. And that's why I'm not sure what happened. I can't remember to the other bandmates leaving. They just wanted no part of the glam, or I can't remember. But he did Cold Lake. And then that turned out to be a monster because there was a whole different thing. He got into this problem with like the band touring and like fucking groupies and all this crazy shit, and they were just causing trouble. And
Well, that's why
that
you do glam. I mean,
what's that?
that's half the reason to get into
Well, yeah, I mean that's what
playing
some
that
of those
style of
guys
music,
wanted to do is they wanted to be in a band to use it as a vehicle for their vices, whether it was sex, drugs, or whatever. So
which
there's
is
a lot of
noble.
that. And then this is funny because while they were on tour for that album, they were in Texas, and Tom Warrior met a girl, ended up marrying her, a groupie, basically.
Really?
And they were
Still
together for
married?
a time. I don't think they're together anymore, but
Oh, that's a shame.
there's a lot of pictures of her, and she shows up on like the next Celtic Frost album, and she's on a few of his records, like doing backing vocals.
Oh,
So yeah,
I mean, so it worked out for a while. I mean, that's kind of a sweet little story.
but that's an interesting book. I'll have to let you borrow that. There's kind of a funny story in there where Martin, the bass player, like jumps over a turnstile at the bus stop.
Uh-huh.
Like everybody goes through this little kiosk turnstile thing, like to get through it. You know those things where you push through the bar and the next bar flips up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like at a bus station. Well, I guess Martin Ain, their bass player, decided fuck it, and he jumped over it. And as he did that, he kicked Tom right in the face accidentally. Then Tom's jaw was so sore he couldn't move it, and they had to play a show with him barely moving his mouth, doing the vocals like like grunting the
And
vocals. That was fucking
yeah.
hilarious. I could just see Martin Ain, this big dude, just like, "Yo, I'm gonna jump over this," and whack, just hits Tom in the face. And then they had a feud with Destruction from Germany, the thrash band. I guess they hated each other for years, and I guess they made up. And that story's in there. And Voivod, there's a lot of stories about how they toured with Voivod. You would like it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
And there's another they put out too about Hellhammer, the years of them doing Hellhammer. It's just very expansive. It's a really big coffee table sized book, but it talks about their entire career as Hellhammer. And that's where I got that story when I was telling you about Venom. He walked up to a record signing one day at a record store with Venom, slapped his tape down of Hellhammer in front of Kronos and said, "We're going to kill Venom. Hellhammer's going to kill Venom," or something like that. And
really?
he like forced himself to do it, to get the gall to do that. And he did it. And I can't remember whatever happened from it. But of course, obviously, they're fucking metal gods now, all of them. So.
Yeah, so it all
Those
kind
are
of
some
worked
good
out.
books. Those are some good metal books you should read.
So as far as other metal books I've read, there was one called my brain is like, I think I'm getting old because my memory, I can't remember the name of this book, but I really liked it. I lent it to Dustin actually, and I don't think I got it back yet.
Well, what was it?
It's a book on the history of progressive metal.
Oh God, that sounds.
And it's called Mean Deviation is what it's called. And I think it actually even touches on like Celtic Frost and like some of their more symphonic stuff, because it really covers like all aspects of progressive music, whether it's like math rock to like symphonic and avant-garde. And couple of those Celtic Frost albums were considered kind of more avant-garde when they started bringing in like symphonies and opera singers and all that shit, you know.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, I think I don't know if Izon is covered on that. You know, the singer for Emperor. He kind of, when he went solo, it was very like moody kind of prog.
Oh yeah, Izon's solo stuff is completely
It's
like Dream
amazing.
Theater and way off the charts past black metal. It's not even metal anymore at some point.
It's not even, yeah, it's not even Dream Theater. Like Dream Theater makes it sound like Dream Theater's heavy compared, because he's using like saxophones, and to me, it's almost it's really nice music. Actually, it's surprising for a black metal guy to.
Well, Emperor,
kinda,
you like Emperor at all?
I like the most recent album. I thought was really interesting, which I think a lot of people hated because it was pretty polished, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is it figures you would like that. Their last few albums, I think, like Nine, Equilibrium.
Equilibrium was the last one I think I heard, and I
Well,
did
there's
like
one
that
after
album.
that. There's another one after that. Actually, let me just look on here. I've got the BNR metal pages up. But yeah, I've got a friend named Ed. He's the guitarist of Malignant Inception.
Yeah,
I always give him shit too because he also loves Dream Theater and prog. He's just like you. He likes the same stuff, but he likes black metal. He loves Emperor.
you told me about him, like you
So
were just because you're frustrated because you said he spent like 6 months trying to perfect a 30-second guitar riff in a song, you know, and it was just taking so long because it was so technical. Was that you?
oh, about Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's totally that way. He'll like redo over and over. Like I had so many master copies of the first Malignant Inception album. He kept giving me like, dude, stop fucking with it. Just let it be. It's death metal. Like quit. And I got it mixed up. Like I had so many, I forgot which one. I did the wrong one, and he was he was mad as fuck. I'm like, well, you gave me so
Perfection.
many, and kept saying no, it's this one. It's like I had a stack of blank CDs that says no, it's this one. No, it's this one. I'm like, what the fuck? Fuck it. Who cares? Like you hear it, no one else hears what you're talking about. Just let it go.
Perfection is the enemy of the good, they say.
It just
I,
you can prog guys over perfect everything. But
no,
anyways,
trust me, I'm not that way, man. Like, listen, I play a lot and write a lot, and here's my kind of I wouldn't say confession, but this is a reality of me. It doesn't matter what kind of music I consume, which is mainly metal and a lot of extreme metal. What I play on guitar is R&B almost, and you know the heaviest stuff is more like Van Halen-y type rock. I can't. I don't know if I have like the hate and aggression inside me. Like I can't play that kind of music. Technically, I can. Like even like thrash metal, like something that aggressive. I don't know why it just when I sit down to write riffs,
well, okay.
that's not what
What
comes out of me.
what you're describing right now is exactly the antithesis of what it is to be metal. That's what I've been saying even about Gene or Ace and Peter's characters, their personas in Kiss. It comes from the soul. It comes from your body. But I'm saying
Love
is
it.
it's like when you play really proggy like guitar stuff and you're worried about every little note versus if you just like lay down some chords and like just go for it. That's
I'm
kind of
not
the
worried.
spirit, you know. That's why I like European metal so much more because they don't waste all this time like redoing and retaking and using click pads and rehashing it in the studio like they do at Morrisound. You know, it's like that the death metal from Morrisound just sounds refined, produced, and overdone versus say Sunlight Studios or Grieg Holland in
Oh boy.
Scandinavia where it's just brutal, heavy, the way metal should be. You get that.
I don't want to get into the whole Florida death metal. No, we're talking
Well,
about
I'm
me,
saying
man.
you've got it from the soul versus you've got like technological prowess and all of this from the mind. You know, if those two
Well,
meet, that's great. If it's one or the other, then it's just not going
that's
to
what I'm
go.
trying to meet. Unfortunately, like, well, not unfortunately, I mean, but I think my soul is a member of Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know, like
I
I
mean,
do. Like I tend to write like R&B and funk a lot, and when
well,
I
that's
do
funny
go
you say
heavy,
that because Peter Criss of Kiss was like very into R&B and Motown. That
oh
was
yeah, I
his thing.
love that shit, dude.
He released a
Because
solo album and no one bought it because I don't think anyone knew it was out,
he-
but it's also just
he-
stuff like that. And
Here's the thing, man. Rock without soul don't roll. I heard that said
There
from
you go.
Jimmy Hazel of 24/7 Spies.
That's true.
But yeah, so I mean, but I'll play heavy stuff, and but it's still it's nowhere close to like the aggression of like a death.
And
Death
here's a good
metal.
band
Yeah.
we were talking about. We were talking about Emperor. Emperor's beginning stuff is like really raw black metal. And then their next full-length album, their first full-length, and the Nightside Eclipse had all these effects and keyboards, and it was kind of cool. It was eerie and mystical.
Yeah.
But after that, they got and they started getting really proggy. They had an album called Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, then Nine Equilibrium, and then Prometheus, their last studio album. All of those are like super technical and like very proggy. You would like all of those if you haven't heard them. I'm sure you have them.
Did they? Okay, they didn't put any albums out without Ice on.
No, never.
They?
Izon is
Okay.
Emperor.
He is
Izon
Emperor,
and Sam,
okay.
the guitarist. That would be like Kiss without Gene and Paul. It's like
Well,
Boss without Tom.
if you listen to any recent interviews of Gene and Paul, they specifically get asked that question. Hey, could Kiss go on without you guys? And they're like, why not?
Yeah, they always say that because they want to make money from Kiss. That right there is even worse than being a clinical fucking progressive technical music guy. It's like being a corporate fucking money grubbing fuck. It's like,
I know.
fuck,
and you want to be both, like, right? Like it's where the money grubbing and the technical progressive meet is where the sweet spot is.
And it's funny, ironic, because Kiss is my favorite band. I love them, but I'm always busting their balls over this kind of shit. And all their fans do. It's not just me. Even Eddie Trunk. Eddie Trunk says too professional to say it on his radio show. But he gets so much shit from them, and he's done so much for them. And just because of being even like professionally critical, just like a small, minute degree, he'll never be welcome in their camps again. Never. It's like so sad. I'm like, that was in the 70s. Let it go. Fuck. Get over it. After all these years, it's like, fuck, let it go, guys. Like, that's why I like Ace Frehley too. And that's why that thing on Tom Snyder was so funny, because Ace is just like, fuck it, whatever, I'm having fun, rock and rolling. That's why his solo album, the 70s Kiss solo album, is so good, because you get that spirit from Ace. You get through the music. It's good, solid, honest, sincere rock and roll. Gene's trying to be like totally like Beatles and Hollywood. Paul kind of had the same thing. He had like some good solid rock, like rock ballads. And Peter was from the heart, but his was Motown sounding stuff. So of course that was horrible for a Kiss fan. But Ace is top to bottom, head and shoulders above all their soul albums. And they to this day will fight that, but it's the truth. And they know it. So, and Ace's newest stuff is pretty good, like Anomaly. And there's a few other albums out now too, where he does covers and stuff. And Ace has got it going on. Like, he may have done a lot of drugs and shit, but he's still playing rock, and he's doing rock, not fucking pop. And it's still there. Like Ace Frehley, my hat's off. That's. But anyway, and I've read bunches of Kiss books. Have you read any Kiss books on the topic of Kiss?
Yeah, so I've read the Paul Stanley, the first one. I know he's got a second one.
Yeah,
out,
don't read
the first
second
one.
The second one is like not. It's just bullshit.
And then I read Gene Simmons,
Kiss and Make Up.
I read that one.
That was pretty.
Yeah, he had some good salacious stories in that one. I've read Dave Mustaine's book.
So I've got his book and I've got Peter's book. You'll have to read those, but there are also some books about Kiss that aren't by them.
Yeah.
There's one called Kiss and Sell. It's by their old tour manager who they fired years ago.
I bet, yeah.
C.K. Lent, Chris Lent. He wrote this book, and it got really in depth with like the music business and like the business aspect of it too, as well as some like really horrible like groupie stories and stuff. So they don't like that book. Like Paul Stanley called that book a pack of lies and stuff like that. But it's really actual real Kiss, because Kiss is like Donald Trump or like any politician. They want you to see what they want you to see. But there's all this other stuff in the background that people know about. They're telling you about.
Well, here's the thing. There's a great story. Have you ever heard of the comedian Craig Gass?
No.
He does. Okay, so he does these amazing like impersonations of like Gene Simmons, like spot on, of Gene Simmons
Really?
and Paul Stanley. Yeah, like look them up on YouTube. They're hilarious.
What's
But
his
he's
name?
telling
Yes.
Craig Gass, Gass, I think.
No, never heard of him.
Just type his name and Gene Simmons. But he's telling the story like he was talking like one of the road crew for Kiss, who was like, I don't know, he might have been Gene Simmons' bass tech or something like that. And this guy's telling him a story about Gene Simmons. He's like, okay, so the other night in South Carolina, I'm telling the story from the road crew guy's perspective. He's like, Gene Simmons hooks up with, a Miss America, basically whatever year it was, like Miss America, right? Just this stunning, beautiful woman. And then he's like, and then literally 2 days later, he's like, I'm in the lobby of the hotel, and Gene comes walking in, and he's got this sort of chubby waitress looking girl, he's got his arm around that, and he like gets on an elevator, and before the elevator door closed, the guy's just looking at Gene Simmons, and before the elevator door closed, Gene Simmons just looks at him and goes, "Oh yeah." And I guess the guy like kind of confronts Gene about it. He's like, "Gene, literally 2 days ago, you were banging a winner of Miss America beauty pageant." He's like, and then the next day, you've got this chick you picked up at, Denny's after her shift. And he's like, listen. He's like, you can't just eat filet mignon every night. Every once in a while, you just gotta get a McDonald's cheeseburger, or something like that, And in a weird way, I like kind of respect him for that, where he's just kind of like, I don't have any like standards necessarily. He's like, I love them all,
Oh, he says that in his book. He'll fuck anyone.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
here,
and I
look, he fucked the girl in the barn who had a hearing aid, and her hearing aid was going "Mee!" while he was fucking her, and
yeah.
Paul
Well, then he
Stanley
talked, yeah,
like lice or something from the barn, or
yeah. Then he talks about like some 60-year-old lady, in the back of the. I mean, yeah, I mean, I in a weird way, I find that kind of honest,
well, that's
and
Gene. I mean, Gene is honest. He's straight up. He's too honest sometimes because he says stuff to women that you shouldn't say, and I've
yeah.
done that before too. That's how you learn the hard way. You don't talk to women like that. You don't just say, "Hey, I want to fucking."
Well,
You
because
try to
he
approach
comes from
women.
that. He approaches sex the way he approaches sales.
Like
Oh,
wanting to get a bird.
it's a
Hey,
numbers
want to
game.
go
Yeah,
look at the
you
bird? Yeah,
you
like
ask 100
huh?
women. If you ask 100 women to have sex with you, 99 will say no. Like in a certain
But
way,
it's Gene
that's,
Simmons Kiss, so of course he's going to have a lot more yeses. So, or
yeah. I mean, this
would have
percentage
back
is
in the
probably
day,
better.
like not now, but
Oh, and hell no, not in 2022. Jesus Christ.
nobody's getting
Uh,
laid anymore.
it's all about continual consent. So like between every pelvic thrust, you have to be like, are we still cool? Is this, do you consent? Do you consent? Do you consent? Do you consent? Yes, yes. I need a verbal consent before I thrust one more. Like, fuck. I mean, look, I anything we can do to eliminate rape from society, but this isn't helping. It's just ruining. It's just ruining sex. But not for us, not for me and you, Jr. We know it. I mean, with women, just our age, we.
You know what? I'm not even going to comment on that. Just wait.
They're
They are.
shameful, filthy animals.
You know what? It's not just men or women. It's all people, really. That's just all there
Okay.
is to it.
It's
But women, yeah.
uh,
I think that they have women acting like that they're these innocent little creatures who want like a humble man to be their lover all the time. Like that's bullshit. That's an old fucking archaic fucking stereotype. It's not real. You
it's
were in
all about
category
like,
5. Do you have any groupies?
no. I, I didn't really have like anything kind of close to really like um
Did you know
I
that you have a
prefer,
page?
I don't even like to call them groupies. I like to call them fans with benefits. But
Oh, fans with benefits. Were they guys or
I well, look, man.
Did you
Oh,
know that
Kiss.
Category 5 has a page in the BNR metal pages?
Yeah, yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? No, I didn't really. So I was married during Category 5. So
So you
if
weren't on the second album then, A New Breed of Rebellion.
no, yeah, I was on the third album
Oh, I
and
thought
the
you were
fourth
on the
album.
second one. You just started playing with them after that.
Yeah, I'm on the last three albums. So I started playing it with them right after New Breed of Rebellion. So I've signed my name over the other guitar player's face many a times, But
So you were like Ace Frehley or Vinnie Vincent. You were the Vinnie
yeah,
Vincent.
I'm the Tommy Thayer of
You were
Category
the Vinnie
5.
Vincent of Category 5. You had the other guy's face, but you were doing all the work.
But
Because you like the groupies, though, so you want to stay as Mark Hansen, not Marquette. Marcy
yes,
Hansen.
exactly.
Did you
No,
know
but
the
I
singer
didn't
of King
really.
Cobra is a woman now?
Yeah, yeah. Is it Marcy Free?
Mark Free is now Marcy Free.
Yeah, yeah. She's great. Um, no, but I didn't really have like kind of groupie type things until I got in Super So Far. Because one, I was single, and they were, from a local band standpoint, they were just way more popular than Category 5. So um, I had a few more prospects, which is just weird, like because just even being like a local band, just on that level, like opens up so many more doors for groupies. I can only imagine what it would be like to be like a band like Kiss or something like that, where
Oh, that'd be
I
crazy.
I would probably I don't think I would survive it, dude. I have
That
too
does happen, though. I mean, no matter
I'm
what
too
you do,
weak. I'm
you wouldn't
very
survive.
much no, because not only would I probably have like several kids and every disease known to man, I also enjoy the chemical side of things too. I just wouldn't survive. I don't think. Maybe now I would, just because I'm older and I just maybe not as reckless, but back then,
Yes!
yeah. Wait, reckless. Oh yeah, that's a
Well, that's
great song.
funny you say
I was
that
telling
because,
you about that song because I was telling you how good that song is.
yeah, you like the guitar tone. That's why I thought it was funny that you used the
Excellent
word.
guitar tone. Yeah.
Well, that's funny because when I did my radio show here in Salt Lake for nearly 10 years, I would always have girls call up and say sexual stuff to me. And you don't know if it's your friends or what, but some of the girls would just ask me to do stuff over the phone that you could never repeat. I was like, God damn, like, where are you? Come down. I'm all alone. And then sometimes I actually met the girls, and other times you met them and they weren't really good looking in person, but I still went ahead and did it. The very Gene Simmons of me.
No, I did.
When I had a store, when I had the Abyss, like I had like a lot of girls. I was like, what the fuck? It's just like if you're famous in any way, even if it's locally famous, that attracts
Yeah.
people to you, let alone just girls. It's not just girls. You notice
Right. Right.
girls, you're fucking them, but there's also all these other people want to be your friend. You get invited to do stuff you ordinarily wouldn't.
Yeah. It's
And that's why we do this podcast, because we need to get laid. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I'm not. But
Yeah, sure.
um,
You're a,
call
you're
me
a
ladies.
you're a good wholesome Trump voting fucking Utah
No,
guy.
I thought no, I said I am doing this to get laid. I thought you said you
Uh,
weren't.
uh,
No, I
uh,
definitely am.
I'll do whatever must be done. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Um, with consent and of age, of course. But
Oh God, fuck your disclaimers.
all that aside,
Oh yeah, that actually, yeah, we should have a disclaimer in there. I heard some disturbing shit in the news the other day. So yes, we don't do anything out of the ordinary. No
yeah,
animals, no kids, no nothing weird. Anyways, let's
no,
get off this topic. Getting
yeah,
back to Kiss,
metal
their
books.
books you should read. I have Kiss and Sell is the book. It's like very much by Kiss, or not by Kiss, but about Kiss by their old tour manager. So it really goes in depth into the business aspect of it, and just like all the other like the whole Vinnie Vincent story. Like it's all in there. This guy gives you everything like straight up.
It'd probably be, yeah, that might be a good one because you are getting it
Well, it goes
like
really into the business
like
aspect of it, and it describes how you sell records. Because in the 70s, when you sold records, like say you sold 1 million copies, right? That's
mhm.
not you actually sold 1 million copies. What that is
No,
the stores around America and the world buying X amount of copies.
right.
It's just
And then
considered.
they return what they don't sell, and
You can
that fucks
turn what you
banks.
don't sell. Yeah, you never knew that. I didn't know that when I had the Abyss. I could do it back then too, but it was just so much hassle. I didn't want to do it. But And I didn't have to in most cases, because most cases I chose stuff that would sell really well, except for fucking Prague, all those motherfuckers who came and ordered it and didn't come buy it.
Dude, I bought the Cynic album. I wish I still had that Cynic album because it was actually autographed when you. I don't know how you got that one, but
You know, I
it was.
have a Dream Theater CD in my storage. I saw it the other day. You probably have it, but it's the one that has the little. It was like one of their newer ones that has the little balls. You know, you let the ball go and it hits the other balls.
Oh yeah, that's
That's
Octavarian.
I have. Yeah, that's it. I have a sealed copy of that still in my storage, as well as Ed Guy. Do you like Ed Guy?
I do like Ed Guy.
I got a couple of Ed Guy CDs. I got some other power metal stuff too. Like I got Blackmore's Rainbow. That's not power metal, but it's like it's Richie Blackmore doing like Baroque stuff or
Oh
like
yeah, Blackmore's Night. I'm not a
what
fan
is
of
that?
Mitch. I'm not a fan of Richie Blackmore. It's called Blackmore's Night.
No, it's
Um,
Blackmore's. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. It is. That's it. Not Blackmore's Rainbow. It's or is it Blackmore's Rainbow? What's the name
no,
of
it's
that band?
Blackmore's Night.
They do like Celtic music or something. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah. He's got a chick with him.
yeah, yeah.
Nah, you know what? It's weird. I've never really been a fan of Richie Blackmore. That's kind of sacrilege as a guitar player, but
Yeah, well, whatever.
that's what it is.
I had a couple other things you would be interested in, and you know what's funny is I could not find that SeventhSign CD anywhere, and I know
Shit.
I had copies of it.
Look up the album, like look it up on BNR just so you can see the album cover, because I want to know if because you were describing it, and it sounds like the album cover that I have, but just see if that rings a bell though. Like if it is.
Well, they don't have it in BNR metal pages, but let me look on
Well,
Google.
it's Seventh Sign is one word, by the way.
It's what?
It's one word when you look it up. So
Well,
you don't put a space
uh,
between seventh and sign.
I don't know what would have happened with those CDs if I had them. If they're gone, 'cause I couldn't find them. I'm like, did I throw them away or get rid of them or give them away? Or I don't think I would have done that because I've got other stuff that's I totally would have gotten rid of and I didn't get rid of it. So I don't know. Let's see
Yet
here.
you have to write it as one word though. Seventh sign.
Wait a second. Okay, I'm not recognizing this cover unless they changed it. Did they change the cover?
Are you looking at what page are you on BNR?
I'm on, I don't know, Metal Music Archives. I just Googled it and came to this page. But the first one, I've got like a planet, like a silhouette of a planet with like a logo looking thing, their SSS thing over it. And then the
Yeah,
other one was like an SSSSS, like this big interlocking
yeah.
logo.
So that's the only two that.
Yeah, though we must be talking about a different band then.
Okay,
Maybe it's
that's
a
too bad.
different band. Maybe it is Seventh Circle that I had. But yeah, the thing I had was like a mauve, or not mauve, but like taupe colored CD case. It was like just
Mm.
said Seventh Circle or Seventh Sign, had like a like maybe like a circle behind it, like a black. It was looked really local. That's why I was surprised that you were still about it. But yeah, this does not look familiar. This is not the same band then.
Okay, all
Sorry.
right.
Then I guess it doesn't
That's
matter if I get rid of it. So
well.
see, if I would have seen that cover, I probably wouldn't be so prone to get rid of it. That looked professional. The one I'm thinking of that I had at the Abyss was like just some band that
Uh,
just didn't really look at all like anything outside of a local band thing. Like
all
just
right.
some band who might be playing at like Barbary Coast every weekend, you know.
Well, that's basically
Oh, and we
at my
talked
age.
talking about metal bands last week, like all the local like metal bands, like Network and all that, and Icon
Yeah,
and
yeah,
right. We
yeah.
forgot to mention Factor. Do you know Factor?
I don't know Factor.
Factor are like arguably one of the most popular bands because they always played shows with other bands like Slaughter Christ and thrash bands, and the guys
Mm.
came up on stage and they looked so classically like metal. They had like headbands, spandex pants with stripes, and
Yeah.
those shirts that are like half blue, half black, like Iron Maiden wears. You know, they look totally
Oh
like
yeah.
80s metal, and they were all like that.
I
I don't
probably
even
liked it.
remember their music. Their music wasn't so great from what I recall because they really forced the high vocals and just the chugga chugga like. But I remember
Eh,
Factor, like they were always a mainstay local band, and you can't forget Truce. Remember
Oh yeah,
Truce?
Truce. They're still around. They're called Truce and Blood now.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
friend Paul, who played drums in Baphomet, the thrash band, he played drums in Truce for a long time.
Yeah. Truce, Crippled, and then oh, trying to think, who else? There's another band. Do you know Rob Gray?
No, but it sounds vaguely
He
familiar.
builds these like awesome guitars like out in locally. Uh, he builds guitars for the guitar player of the band called Municipal Waste. Anyways, he's in a local thrash band that's pretty good, and he's also in what is the band? Nuclear Holocaust.
No idea.
They opened for Gwar. It was pretty awesome. But you don't like Gwar, but they're a fun show. You should, everybody should see Gwar at least once.
Yeah, everybody says that, but you know.
All right. Well, sorry.
Did you like Rigor Mortis, the thrash band? Did you ever hear them?
I've never really heard them because I know their guitar player played for White Zombie, and I never, for some reason, White Zombie never really.
No.
No,
Rigor
I'm dead
Mortis
serious.
is like is almost the same exact band lineup as Ministry and Gwar. Same guys, like guitarists anyway.
Oh,
I think drummers too, actually. I can't remember.
maybe
But
that.
same
Maybe I was
guys who were in
confusing.
Mortis were also in Ministry and they were also in Gwar. So all three of those bands are related. And it's really funny too because there's a horror movie, some kind of a sci-fi horror movie called Hardware from like the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And in that
Oh, yeah.
movie, Lemmy from Motorhead does a cameo. It's like Earth is in this Holocaust, like everything's burnt up, the atmosphere is all burned, so it's like a desert. And Lemmy's like this taxi driver or something. And he turns on the radio on Motorhead. You like these guys? And he turns it up, and it's Motorhead. But Gwar, there's a scene where these people are watching Gwar on this TV, and that like, of course, they look like these crazy monsters. Like, what the fuck is that? And they're playing guitars, but the music is Ministry, Stigmata, the song Stigmata by Ministry. And what's
Right.
ironic about that is they're the same band members, but they're also all the guys from Rigor Mortis who are from Texas, and they were on Capitol Records.
You're right.
And they're,
Okay, so I was confusing Ministry with White Zombie,
oh yeah,
and same thing though. I never checked out. I never checked out Rigor Mortis because I didn't like Ministry. I'm like, I don't give a fuck, you know.
Well, it doesn't sound like Ministry. I mean, Rigor Mortis
I know.
is Rigor Mortis. They're a thrash band, and they are what they are. But
Yeah.
yeah, they were like really clean and polished, though.
Then it sounds like someone's home
What's that
alarm is
beeping?
going off. It's like a car alarm maybe or a house alarm. Sounds like a house alarm. Oh, okay, they figured it out.
Well, anyways, yeah, Rigor Mortis. You might like them because they have a very clean like sound, and they're pretty good for a thrash band. I mean, I guess when they first came out, I didn't like it. It was a little too produced and clean, and like I don't know, just something about it that I didn't like. But I mean, I didn't hate it. But it was good. But I bought the record. I ended up just getting it and selling it to a like a used CD shop or something. But
Hmm.
um,
I might check them out. So much music to
uh,
listen to.
I got to send you some stuff. Like I mentioned, Revenant. I want to send you that. And have you ever heard Resurrection, the death metal band?
No.
They're pretty good. You would like them. It's another just classic Morris sound recordings thing from the U.S. from that time, like the early '90s. They kind of
Yeah.
didn't very big. They were on Nuclear Blast, but they were really good technical. They were one of the better bands actually. It's a shame they didn't make it. They were on Nuclear Blast, and they had a Dan Seagrave cover and
Huh.
the works, and they never quite made it. And they did a cover of Kiss War Machine too, which totally won points with me, but it didn't really do it justice. But
Speaking of covers, like say what you will, like okay, you don't like Cannibal Corpse, got it.
ooh, fast
But
way. Say what you will.
but you got to admit, like
Didn't pick that one up, huh?
I've never really got into Fastway.
I thought you picked that one up immediately because I thought you were into that kind of stuff. Well, anyways, you were saying Cannibal Corpse.
Like their album covers are pretty those Vince Locke album covers.
Yeah.
are they're pretty classic. Like that's kind of a classic thing. Like their relationship with their artist. Like he's done every album cover. It's the same artist.
Well, again, the art to me is like their music. It's over the top, in your face for the purpose of just offending and getting attention. And it's just, I'm like, whatever. It's just there. I don't care.
Well,
I'm not Gwar, the sex guy. Like, I don't
neither am I.
go hysteric because somebody drew a dick, like other people did in high school. I
But
just not that guy.
I'm just saying though they're iconic. Like and
Well,
and
they
very
they are to some people, but they aren't to other people. Like Iron Maiden's iconic to me. Like I used to spend hours. Like when I bought somewhere.
Well, that's what I mean. Like Vincent Locke is basically Cannibal Corpse's Derek Riggs.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
But the difference
Go
is
on, somewhere in time.
Something offensive that's the centerpiece of the art, whereas Derek Riggs has a lot more detail, a little more realistic, but he has all these little things hidden inside there.
Oh yeah.
And like Somewhere in Time, that album cover, and Power Slave, yeah, I'd stare at those for hours, just listening to the record over and over, and I would just stare at that for hours. Like, oh my God, look, there's Doctor Who's TARDIS up there, and oh my God, look, Blade Runner. Oh, look up there, there's an angel in the sky, and it's burning.
And then there's like that always he has that little symbol that's always like sort of.
Yeah, the Iron Maiden symbol. That's actually the constituent symbol, the scientific element table symbol for iron, but he added
is it? Okay.
In mouth, so it looks like a face.
Yeah, okay. I never understood. I actually never knew the origins of it. But I learned to draw it. And I would draw it on everything I could find when I was a kid.
That's why it's clever. It's Derek Riggs' signature, DR, but it looks like the symbol for iron. The elemental table like symbol for iron, which is the circle with a line through it and an arrow pointing down, like the male symbol, and then like a little circle coming off of it also on a line. Yeah. But he added another line,
and then there's another one, yeah.
And then a little line under it to make a mouth. So that's the Iron Maiden symbol, even though it doesn't really mean Iron Maiden, but it's right. Derek Riggs and iron. I had this book for a while, and I gave it to a friend for his birthday that loves Iron Maiden more than I do. And the artwork in there is really, a lot of it's good, but he does a lot of stuff that's like kind of like kitschy, and like he did a lot of Halloween covers. Did you know that?
That makes sense because I like the Walls of Jericho. Like there's that album Walls of Jericho,
but like some later stuff by Halloween he did.
But really, because there's like almost like an Eddie type beast on that album cover, the Walls.
Oh yeah, Halloween. Everybody since Iron Maiden has their iconic like thing on their records. Just like Eddie, Motley Crue had Aleister Fiend for like a minute. Halloween had that guy. Megadeth had Vic Rattlehead. And the Slayer had the Goat guy for a minute, and everybody did that. But only Iron Maiden really carried it through.
Who else has a Nike? Dangerous Toys has
on their one album.
on all of their albums.
They don't have more than one album, do they?
Dude, they got several albums. Dangerous Toys is great.
I thought they only had that one album.
No, dude. They got like I don't know how many albums. They got like probably 5 or 6 though. But the clown is called Psycho Jack for Dangerous Toys.
They what?
Their mascot was Psycho Jack.
Hmm.
He's a evil clown in a Jack-in-the-Box. Who else has a?
I don't think anybody else had anything like that, did they?
I
mean, you can't compete with Eddie. I mean, come on, like the Mummy.
No, Eddie's the
progression through everything. And it got a little confusing there after Power Slave because they had Live After Death, and I thought, okay, well, I thought he was a mummy buried in the pyramid, and here he is in this little shitty dinky graveyard somewhere in the ass end of England. He's coming out of that. Like, he has hair again. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. But of course, it was just an album cover. And even
Anthrax had the.
Death, it's just the graveyard, but you just sit there looking at it like, oh my God, look over there in the corner. There's the cat. Like, oh my God, look over there. It's somebody's gravestone. I know that name. And it's just great artwork. Like that's the thing about like listening to records and buying a record or even just a CD or a tape that kids these days aren't going to get, because you can just sit there and look at the cover, you read the lyrics, you read the thank you list, and that's how you find out about other bands too.
Other bands, yeah.
It's look at the thank you list, you look at the shirts they're wearing and the band photos, or if there's a picture collage, you can see other bands. and
Yeah,
you check
or
it
who
out.
produced it, and then you find out what other albums were produced by that guy. You know,
Yeah,
what label it's on. Yeah.
it's a lost art. Listening to music is a lost art. It's like, and today at work, I was at work this morning, and like the kids, like they have on this shitty ass pop. So my boss is like, put on some Steely Dan or something, and I guess he said Rock Lobster, just joking, and so she puts on Rock Lobster immediately. I'm like, it used to be you had to pick out a CD and put it on, or go to the radio, or at least put on like a Pandora station even. But like these days, they just have everything at their fingertips, everything.
Oh yeah.
It sucks. It's like you don't even
For
listen to it.
example, it's like just I think it was last week, man. I pulled up Green Earrings. That is a motherfucker of a song, dude. By Steely Dan.
Steely Dan, Green Earrings from the Royal Scam. That's a good. I have
Yeah.
a
What an
DVD of them
amazing
playing that
song.
song.
Yeah. That song is just
That's a definitive '70s sound right there. That's why I love Steely Dan, is I like just that sound. It's
that
like
funk, that
'70s.
but it's so tight, dude. The break right before the solo, the drum fill. Oof.
Steely Dan's
Amazing.
fucking good, and that's also funny too because they have a connection to Kiss too. Like in the back in the day, like Jeff Skunk Baxter, I think we talked about that. He was in Steely Dan, like a session musician,
Yeah, yeah.
and he had something to do with Kiss, like production, I think, and like he may or may not have played on one of their albums, like a spot here or there
In
back in the day.
Kiss?
Jeff Skunk Baxter is a name I remember from reading Kiss records when I was a kid.
Really?
Skunk Baxter, who's that? And they had a history with Steely Dan.
Oh yeah.
And they're
Well,
from New
there's
York, so
New
why not?
York. Yeah.
Poor Steely Dan would look down their nose at the band like Kiss. Oh, that reminds me. I was thinking about this today. I was going to ask you. I heard a rumor that the reason why Kiss, up until recently, when they were put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the reason why they were kept out of it was Bruce Springsteen largely. Is that true?
I have no idea. He's
Because I
got a
was sitting at
beef.
work today eating my lunch out in the lobby, and Bruce Springsteen came on. Hey, little girl, is your daddy
I
home?
God, I hate
And I'm
Bruce
like, why
Springsteen.
didn't he get shit for that song? Like, it sounds like he's a fucking child molester, like looking for this little girl. Like, fuck that guy. But he's Bruce Springsteen, so it's okay. But anyways, he has some big connection to Fish, and God, do I hate Fish. Um, but I was asking that because I heard somewhere that I think it was Eddie Trunk actually, a big reason why Kiss never got like the note, even like nominated to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, is because Springsteen or his fans or somebody like always kept Kiss out of it. We'll have to look at
Uh, I mean, Kiss pretty much shit on the whole
Oh yeah,
like
they ruined it.
critic industry.
See,
You
and
know?
again, right there, that's what I'm saying is Gene and Paul are so fucking corporate that they wanted to go in with that lineup of Kiss they had right now. They wanted people to accept that was Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer. That's the Kiss. I'm like, no, Kiss, the band from the '70s. And I hate the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I've been there, and it's like a fucking hiccup. It's nothing. It's like it's a bunch of fucking shit, like Van Morrison and REM. It's fucking stupid. It's laughably fucking bad. Like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is like early '70s post hippie shit. It's so fucking dumb. I would not even be care at all if I didn't get in there if I was a band. But I just when Kiss did that, it just pissed me off. I'm like, God, you finally got in there, and then you act like this because you want people to accept your corporate dream of this version of Kiss. Like that's why they pissed me off. It's like they're the guys who say if you get what you want in life, shut up. It's like, what's your problem? Like, just fucking accept Ace. Just realize he was a part of Kiss. Fuck. And I think deep down that they do that because they know that everybody loves Ace and Peter, and it drives them nuts because they said what they said about him, and they're wrong. They're being proven wrong. That people love Ace and Peter, and that's Kiss. That is the Kiss we love, not the one right now. It doesn't matter what they look like right now. It matters who's in the fucking band and what they play. So there's that sincerity from Ace and Peter that you get. It may not always be pretty, but most of the time it worked. And I hated that they did that. It's so humiliating to be a Kiss fan right then. I was like, Jesus, guys.
And
Did you
let
fall
this
asleep
be
on?
let this serve to be a warning to all you kids out there. I don't
What's
know.
that? Don't piss off the master butcher.
Don't don't bring
Well,
up
you know what? I
Tommy
mean, am
Thayer.
I wrong though? Am I wrong? Because you know what I'm saying is like there's an ethical thing about being sincere and playing music from the heart. That's what music is to me. It's not clinical and production. It's not money. This is what music does. It drives us down to our soul. That's what music is.
What
Like
if
it's not
what's in your
fucking.
heart is clinical and produced?
Well, if that's
How
what's
can
in your
you
heart, if
tell?
that's what's in your heart. I mean, that's fine. Like Dream Theater does it, and they're a good band. Not for me, but they do what they do, and they're good at it. They have a following. But when you're up there on stage in front of the world getting something you've always wanted and you finally got it, then you're saying, no, 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 we don't want those two guys in with us. We want these two guys because they're our corporate guns for hire. That wasn't the deal. And that's not the band that people want in there. That's not what
I,
their fans want.
but at one point though, I mean, if they're literally unable to do it, like, do you call it a day, or you
What do
know,
you mean if they're unable?
like, okay, if Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, for whatever reason, whether it's drugs or just being fuck ups,
No,
like if
Ace
they
and
reach.
Peter were there and wanted to do it, and Gene and Paul wouldn't do it. I think they may have played a song or two with them, but I don't think in the end they didn't want anything to do with them because they wanted to go into the Hall of Fame with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer because that was the current Kiss lineup, and they're trying to force people to accept that. That's what they're
Oh,
doing.
you're okay. You're talking about just the Hall of Fame. I thought you meant kind of like in general, and I'm like, well,
No,
I don't
no,
know.
Rock
Like,
and Roll Hall of Fame. That's what I'm talking about. Is all that time they never got in there. They finally got nominated for it, and then they acted like total pricks, saying no, it's Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer.
well,
That's the Kiss you have to induct, and they're like, no, it's this Kiss who are the ones everybody knows from all this time in the past. This is the Kiss we want in there. And that's what their fans wanted. And then Kiss is like, no, no, no. Corporate Kiss says this is Kiss. I'm like, no, fuck you. Your fans say this is Kiss. This is who we like. Even people online are like not accepting Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, and it's just it pisses them off, and they're trying to force us. It's political
I
and stupid politics.
oh, well, of course. I mean, it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Of course, it's political.
But I don't. That's the thing
I
is I
mean,
don't
why
want
is
Rock
like
and Roll
why?
Hall of Fame. I mean,
That's
they're
why
fucking.
Ted Nugent will never be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, now Ted Nugent's doomed himself forever from everything except for like Republicans. But
Why me?
I'm sure he doesn't care. I don't mind Ted Nugent's music.
Good horror book time. Now that you mention it, because I just barely finished this book.
What?
The Ritual by Adam Neville.
Who?
Adam Neville is the author, and the book is called The Ritual.
And it's about.
It's a horror novel, kind of a supernatural horror, but it's uh, almost like the movie. It's almost like the story of Deliverance, but in Sweden, like in the forests of Sweden, but with like a supernatural element to it. And then,
What
but the
do you mean?
author, pardon, you can
Deliverance.
even
What?
watch. You know the movie Deliverance? Squeal like a
Never seen
pig.
it.
Okay, but it's like a kind of a famous movie from the 70s with Burt Reynolds where
The
they
only reason
get
why that movie's famous that I've heard is because there's a gay like rape scene or something.
right. Okay, but that's what I mean. Like, and there's no gay rape scene in Ritual, but it is like a group of like hikers being basically just brutalized and you know, tormented by. I don't want to give away the plot because it's actually really good, and I think you would like the book because the author ties it into like black metal, and what I actually liked about it is the author I don't even think likes black metal. Like I kind of tell that he's not like a fan, but did enough research to sort of uh, give the characters some credibility. But it's cool because he does. I mean, he mentions Burzum, he mentions Satyricon, he mentions Celtic Frost, he mentions Venom, you know. But yeah, I just finished that book today. Really good book. I wouldn't say it's a metal book, but it's
Why
a
is he
horror
mentioning
book
these
that
bands?
has. Pardon?
Why is he mentioning these bands in there?
Okay, because some of the antagonists that end up tormenting these tourists are black metal kids from Norway. But there's also like like I said, there's like a supernatural kind of demonic angle to the book too that adds.
See,
It's just cool.
Sounds like someone just either read Lords of Chaos or saw the movie or heard the rumor about Mayhem and all their stuff and just used that in their book. Sounds like he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
No, I don't think he does know what the fuck he's talking about. But
The average
I actually
black metal kid from that time was like 90 pounds, like super scrawny. That's why I laughed at black metal.
exactly.
Back
You'd have to read the book because yes, they are scrawny little black metal kids, but I said there's like a supernatural element to it.
Well, yeah.
So, because it's not like a group of tourists go to Sweden forest and beat the fuck out of some black metal kids that tried to fuck with them. No, it's you got to see it, dude. I'm just telling you about a book, man. You go on this rant about.
I know. I just went on. I was just one of those things. Like, you have to understand when you were in that scene in the 90s, like it was very, very like not accepting. They were really like mean to everybody. They were.
I know. I know.
What?
I know.
And I wonder if like we had a fight between like say the Florida death metal guys versus the Norwegian black metalers. I really probably have to side with the Florida guys. I think they'd win. And like
if it was a fair fight, but listen, Adam Neville is the author. The book is The Ritual.
So you see,
there's even a movie on there's a movie adaptation on Netflix you can watch, but I haven't watched the movie in a long time, but I think they take the black metal, like whoever wrote the screenplay for it, like sort of took that element out of it. I don't think it's still a great movie. I mean, you can watch the movie as well if you don't want to read the book, but the book does kind of go a little further in the black metal kind of story. But it's a great book, really good horror, kind of Lovecraftian a little bit, or maybe more folklore type horror. But I like it.
Lovecraftian is a word that's thrown around a lot these days. I don't think people know what it means anymore. But
my balls are thrown around a lot these days. No, I know what you mean. I know what Lovecraftian horror is.
Well, I know you probably do, but I'm just saying.
Just throwing it around willy-nilly. You don't think I've entered the mountains of madness?
There's a show that's I can't remember what channel it's on, but there's some modern show. It's about Lovecraft. I forget the name of it even.
You don't think I read Sutter Kane? I'm sorry.
I did not for 1 minute say that you don't know anything about Lovecraft. I just said it gets thrown around a lot these days. Okay. Down, boy. Easy. You need to go back to your cherry orchards and take a nap.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to dream about the ancient ones.
The ancient ones, huh? What do you know about the ancient ones? Did you read my book, by the way?
I did. Yeah, it was about it's been a long time, but it was like a guy turning into like kind of a fish.
Oh, don't give it away.
Oh, sorry, I spoiled it.
God damn it.
Oh.
In case you want to know, anybody who's listening, I have a book called The House in the Port. You can get it on lulu.com, LULU.com. $5, mini novel. Horror at its best.
You know what they say, like you feed a man a fish, he eats for a day. You turn a man into a fish, he's fucked. Because someone's going to catch that fish and give it to a guy to eat for a day.
It's funny because there's a guy who did a review of that book of mine on the Lulu website, and it's the only person who did it, and he's like some total fucking dumb shit guy that like made this review. He like totally was like super critical of it. I was like, it's just a fucking fun book I wrote based on Lovecraft.
Yeah.
What do you expect me to do? Like write this groundbreaking novel, you fucking twit? So he's like, oh, it's derivative. I'm like, that's the whole point. Everybody who writes Lovecraft, that you don't have much to draw.
Right.
At people turning into fish. That's about it. It's like, how much further can you go with it?
Yeah, it's
like
it's like it's tentacles. It's unspeakable horror, madness.
It's actually a dream I had. It was based on a dream. I had a dream. Wow. I walked through my kitchen and saw wet footprints, and I had a dog that was whimpering in the corner. That was my dream, and so I extrapolated all of that into a book. It is what it is, a Lovecraft book. But
from dream to reality. But I got it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened to it though. Like
The House in the Port, ladies and gentlemen. Lulu.com, $5, and leave me some good reviews too.
I might order another copy.
And I'm working on an autobiography right now. I pretty much got it done, although my recent breakup with my recent girlfriend of 4 years has to be at the end chapter of it because it's so ironic, you know.
Sounds like an autoerotic biography. I've
Oh,
actually
it's
got a
just a lot of
horror.
sexual stuff in there. I mean, like I was saying, when you're in, you know this from being in the band. It's like when you're kind of in the public eye, if it's just on a local level, you get all kinds of interesting shit that happens in your life, like either with women or just in general or with opportunities. And
It's actually a lot of it. I don't even makes me shudder kind of thinking about it. Just some of the crazy.
I look back on some of the stuff I did, like when I did my radio show, there was a British girl who used to call me all the time. And
Mhm.
it drove me nuts because I could never get her off the phone. I'd be like, okay, I just want to do my radio show. I got to go. And she'd keep me on the phone. And then I met her once and we had a meeting, shall we say, in the back in my car.
Yeah,
And
ugly
then
sex. It's probably
she
good
kind
though.
of disappeared. And it turned out she was a witch. Or she said she was. And one of my friends was in the magic and said, dude, she took your shirt. Like, she's going to put a curse on you and all this stuff. And it was crazy. And
She
then it
turned
turned,
you into a newt.
no, she turned me into a bigger asshole.
Yeah, see.
It was just like a
Uh,
thing, and it was interesting that it happened. But then get this, like there was another DJ who was there at the station who played industrial, and
mhm.
he was fighting with his girlfriend on the phone one night, and he had to get on the air. So he says, "Here, talk to my girlfriend for a minute." So I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And Brian's on the air right now, and then she's like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's her." So
Oh.
this girl faked a British accent with me the whole time I knew her. It was like a flawless, spot-on British accent. And I watch a lot of British television and listen to stuff, and I could
Mhm.
not detect it. Turns out she was
Wow.
probably a split personality or something. And
Uh,
I don't know
so that
what it was.
split personality, I think that counts as a three-way, dude. Um,
Yeah, there you go. And anyway, I was on that note.
all right. So,
Wow, we got
oh,
2 hours in. Holy shit, about nothing.
yep, dude.
What is the
It's like a
deal with Dream Theater?
Seinfeld of metal.
These guys come out and they're playing technical musicians' music for musicians. What if I'm a
Yeah.
carpenter?
Would
What
I
if I'm
do
a shoe
carpentry
salesman?
for carpentry? I, I don't.
Well,
I
anyway,
don't
Mark
know, dude.
Hansen, ladies and gentlemen, Category 5, super so far, multi-journalist, multi-tiered journalist for the Metal Underground. God damn it, there he is, out in the park with his guardian owl above his head.
All
And
right,
Archerina the
Sticky.
Master Butcher. Wow.
Yeah, man.